The DA claims ever since YSL allegedly took out Pnut, YFN Lucci's homie, Atlanta has been on fire, with bodies dropping and a lot of bodily injuries being reported. And upon investigation of these alleged incidents, they always found something that tied it back to the Inglewood Bloods, which is who YFN Lucci and his crew runs with, or YSL the gang. The DA also exposed that one of the guys accused of the hit on Pnut has actually turned to a state witness, so he'll be testifying against YSL and Young Thug. But that's enough of me talking. As always, watching TV. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get in the comment section, let me know what y'all think. I got the footage of the court appearance. Y'all know how we do it over here. Y'all check that out, and we gonna have a conversation at the end of the video. Gang!
My client, Mr. Stillwell, was charged in 2015, October 2015. Who else did you say was charged at that time?
Antonio Sledge, briefly, because his case was dismissed at the preliminary hearing.
Okay.
Kenneth Copeland and Demikian Garlington.
And that's the same Kenneth Copeland that is on the state's witness list?
Yes.
Okay. And it was Detective Thorpe of APD that made the decision to charge my client, Mr. Stillwell?
Yes.
And it was Detective Thorpe of APD who made the decision to charge Mr. Sumlin, Mr. Copeland, and Mr. Garlington?
Mr. Copeland, Mr. Garlington, I believe you meant to say Mr. Sledge?
Sledge, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
I said Sumlin instead of Sledge.
Yes.
And you're telling us that the decision to charge those four individuals was based on the word of Spencer Wright?
Well, for 3 out of 4 of them, if my memory serves correctly, it was essentially entirely based on Spencer Wright. Your client, there was a little bit more evidence.
And we're going to get to that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So, but for the other 3, well, for all 4, a man named Spencer Wright claimed to be at the scene of the murder and named those people as being involved.
Yes.
And when Spencer Wright, are you aware of the circumstances that brought Spencer Wright into contact with Detective Thorpe to tell Detective Thorpe this?
Generally, yes.
Did Spencer Wright have pending charges?
Spencer Wright had been, if my memory serves correctly, I know that he didn't just show up to the precinct out of the goodness of his heart. He had been pulled over, if I remember correctly. During the traffic stop, he threw a gun away in the bathroom at the gas station. He lied about his name, and there was an investigator, Lakia Gaither, just happened to recognize him and reminded him of what his name actually was. So and he was, so he had a firearm, and I believe he had a probation violation warrant. So he was taken into custody contemporaneously with his statement.
And so we're clear, you wouldn't dispute that Spencer Wright had a motive to lie?
Yes.
That would be correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Spencer Wright actually came in at the same time that he named these 4 individuals as being involved in this murder and gave police a false name?
He did at first, and one of them, like I said, just happened to know him. And this is all from memory, but I'm pretty sure this is correct.
So he lied about his name?
He did.
And the police knew this?
Yes, they did.
And they took his word on who to arrest on a murder?
That's what happened, yes.
Okay. And through your investigation, you would agree that 3 of the 4 defendants in this case have changed since then regarding the 2015 shooting?
3 out of the 4, okay, so first of all, what do you mean by change, and which 3 defendants are we talking about?
There was 4 people that were charged in October of 2015 by Detective Thorpe. 3 of those 4 people are no longer charged.
Oh, I understand. In other words, we ultimately indict a different set of people than were ultimately charged by the police. Is that your question?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. We did indict Shannon Stillwell, aka Shannon Jackson, who's your client, but we did not charge Mr. Copeland, Mr. Garlington, or Mr. Sledge with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Well, let's be clear. They were charged.
They were charged by the police, yes.
And they were arrested and put in jail.
They were, yes.
Based on the word of Spencer Wright.
That is correct.
Who lied about his name?
He did.
Is whether there was an active investigation into YSL.
Yes, there was. And so to answer your question, to the best of my knowledge, as far as I knew, or as far as I can remember, the investigation into YSL really started with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Okay, so 2015. And what about investigations into Jeffrey Williams?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant.
I'm alleging that this has been a strategic decision to withhold the prosecution of Shannon Stillwell, who they claim to have had a case with, or against, a solid case against, since 2015. And I want to know why they waited 8 years to bring this
Well,
case.
then why don't you ask him?
Well, I want to know what investigation.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead and ask him, please.
To your knowledge, how long have you had an investigation ongoing, when I say you, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, against Jeffrey Williams?
For me personally, it would have been around, I want to say April of 2016 when I found out that he rented the car that was utilized in the drive-by shooting.
Okay. What about, not you personally, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office?
That I can't answer. As far as I know, I don't know. I have no idea. If there were any other investigations regarding Mr. Jeffrey Williams, I don't know about them.
Well, could you answer if you knew, do you believe that you were the first person to begin an investigation into Jeffrey Williams, or do you believe that there was already investigations into Jeffrey Williams?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance into investigations regarding Jeffrey Williams.
I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did you have discussions with Paul Howard about the Donovan Thomas case?
Yes.
How often?
Well, there would obviously, every few months, actually. Maybe there were times it would actually be more often than that. It was definitely not one or two. I can tell you that. It was more than that.
Was he familiar with the facts of the case as alleged?
Yes.
Would Mr. Paul Howard have had access to the gang unit of the district attorney's office that you did not have unfettered access to?
I would presume yes. I guess I never asked him, nor did he ever tell me. It never came up, but given that he was the head of the entire office, I would assume that he had access to every room of the office. But I'm only assuming.
Do leaders of different units within the office meet with each other?
Yes, yes.
Is there coordination between units in the district attorney's office?
Yes, of course.
Was there coordinations between units back in 2015?
Yes.
Could there have been discussions that you were not privy to about these matters?
I'm sure.
Okay. Mr. Sprinkle, you have, is it fair to say that you largely have an investigative function within the district attorney's office?
Yes, for the most part.
But you all are also an attorney.
I am.
You have a bar code.
I do.
You're familiar with the laws of, the rules of evidence in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree that we're in here today not on a murder case, but a large RICO case, which one part of it has an alleged murder?
I am familiar with the indictment that is before the court that is being litigated right now, and I am familiar that the primary or the first count or couple of counts is a RICO case. As far as I'm concerned, I was primarily, if not really exclusively, concerned with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Correct. But you are aware that this indictment that we're all in here today involves more than just the 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas.
I'm aware of that, yes.
Okay. And there are 4 people that you chose to charge and indict. Well, we'll get to that. There's 4 people that you advised the state to indict for the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Well, I believe there are 5, and I was definitely part of meetings regarding the indictment. But again, this was really Don Geary that was leading the charge on who to indict for the murder. Now, was I influential? Of course, okay. But I wasn't the one who ultimately made that decision. But
you weren't the one to make the decision. When was this case ready to take to the grand jury? The alleged murder of Donovan Thomas.
Well, it wasn't an alleged murder. He absolutely was murdered. It was May of 2022.
Oh, it wasn't ready?
No. Wait, when was the case presented to the grand jury?
When was it ready to take to the grand jury?
I can't, again, because Don Geary was the attorney that was working on that, and I wasn't. Well, I guess it was ready when we presented it, right? I would assume.
Well, that's when your office chose to present it.
Yes.
I'm asking when it was ready.
I don't. You would have to ask Don Geary that. Okay. Because as you said, this is more just the murder of Donovan Thomas is a big RICO case. So.
I'm aware of that, but I'm very interested in when the singular incident, the January 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas, was ready to present to the grand jury.
I would just have to say May of 2022, unless you can define the word ready.
On page 2 of those 140, well, let me back up. I'm sorry. Almost the first order of business in this report is your concerns about Spencer Wright.
Correct. That is how my investigation began. Because
you were doing a thorough investigation and you looked at the video and noticed the man who was saying he witnessed the event was not where he said he was.
Correct.
And so your report, this 140-page report, begins with discussion of the video and Spencer Wright.
Yes.
On page 2 of the report, in the first paragraph, you talk about Detective Thorpe finding probable cause for these 4 individuals that are originally charged.
Yes.
And then you say, Kenneth Copeland, Demikian Garlington, and Antonio Sledge, or I'm sorry, you say Copeland, Garlington, and Sledge consisted almost entirely of the statement of Mr. Spencer Wright, correct?
Correct.
All right. You went on to say, with respect, or to write, with respect to Mr. Jackson, Mr. Wright also implicated him in the statement summarized below. However, there was another witness named Quindarius Zachary that also implicated Mr. Jackson.
That is correct.
Okay. So on page 2 of the report, you were saying that there was an additional witness against, when I said Mr. Jackson, you were calling a Mr. Jackson report, but it's my client, Mr. Stillwell.
Yeah, back then he was known as Shannon Jackson. That's why I say Shan Jackson, a.k.a. Shan Stillwell, or vice versa.
All right. You, as the investigator, did not have the same doubts or concerns about Mr. Jackson's case or Mr. Stillwell's case than you did with the other 3 defendants, based on additional witness testimony, correct?
Well, I mean, I at least had some evidence that he committed the murder, yes.
Okay. All right, and just to be clear, in January 2016, when you're working on this case, and throughout your investigation, Shannon Stillwell is still presumed innocent in jail.
He was in jail for about 250 days, I believe, on the murder charge before he was transferred, I want to say, to the Department of Corrections on unrelated matter. But yes, he was in jail, yes.
And he didn't bond out on this case until, on the 2015 case, until October of 2018, isn't that true?
I recall, if I remember correctly, he was booked into the jail on October 23rd and made bond the next day because he had obviously gotten a bond long before then because he had been in jail over 90 days on the murder.
Right, but he was in jail for 3 years.
On the murder?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe he was jailed for 3 years. I believe he was in jail for about 250 days on the murder.
Okay, well, we'll say 250 days. I mean, that's a substantial amount of time, correct?
Legally, it's subjective as to what's substantial.
Okay. Well, you wouldn't want an innocent man locked in jail for that long.
Objection, argumentative.
I sustain this deform.
Thank you,
I
Judge.
sustain it.
Okay. Are you an ethical prosecutor?
Yes.
And for the record, I believe Mr. Sprinkle is. Okay. If you felt that there was no case against Mr. Stillwell like you thought about the others, you would presumably have done something to get his release, correct?
Right. What I would have done is I would have told his defense attorneys that essentially there was no evidence, which is what I did with the other co-defendants. So.
Okay.
Right. But with Mr. Stillwell, the absence of evidence wasn't quite as stark.
Okay. And so you didn't take any proactive steps to seek the release of Mr. Stillwell?
The more this YSL case unfolds, to me, this is my personal opinion. I don't have any law degrees. This is just what I think. It just seems like, to me, it being 28 defendants, even though we got people copping out, pleading guilty and all that, it just seems like in the courtroom right now with the lawyers and Young Thug, the defense team, it just seems like from so many angles, the prosecution is getting shut down. The minute they feel like they have something, somebody else jumps up like, wait, all right, so what that got to do with my client? And then it's a battle. And when the prosecution feel like, all right, they shake that person off, or not even they shook them off, it was just like a fair back and forth debate. They was going at it. A next lawyer step up from the defense side. I feel like the fact that they have so many co-defendants actually standing up to fight and saying they're innocent, or like, y'all got to prove that we're guilty, it's like they got a fighting chance, man, because a lot of the evidence that they have on these guys were obtained illegally. They got people that's already in jail they just know of things that's going on, so they willing to get on the stand. Like, if y'all could prove that these guys did it, we're willing to get up on the stand in our jail uniform and swear to the Bible what we know, how we know it, who told us, what they heard, and things like that, to get their sentences reduced. So I just feel like that's what the DA and the prosecution is relying on. Testimonies of the rats and people snitching, who not trying to go to jail like Gunna and DURK and them, or who in jail and trying to come out. And I honestly feel like people on the YFN side could possibly be snitching too, because didn't YFN Lucci get arrested first? Wasn't his indictment first? Wasn't he arrested for accidentally clipping his mans trying to spin on Young Thug and them? So how Young Thug going to trial before you? Like, nah, this he might get up on that stand. He might be a surprise witness, man. You see him come out talking about, yeah, it all start. You never know how this gonna turn out, man. I don't know. And the DA said she don't got no deals for Young Thug, so he really got to go to trial. Oh, man. Y'all get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think about this. As always, watching TV. Make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. You know the vibes. And I'm out of here. Gang!